I'm going to start a new video. I know it's tagged on to one of the other ones, and I'll correct that shortly, but Bill Bartels from Canada has brought his car here. Apparently they have pretty much everything cleaned out now. Okay. His car's been painted. He's got an awful lot of our parts. They did a lot of that work up in Canada, all this other work in Canada. This has all of our floors and rails and patch panels and the like in it already. Has come in here on this cart. Engine's been rebuilt in Canada as well. Car looks pretty nice. I don't know how much light we have. I don't know how much light. I guess they closed that down here. Things are nicely seam sealed, painted. Did a really nice job inside here. We'll kind of inventory things in the next couple of days. He has a spare hood and deck lid, pretty banged up. I can see why he changed them. His wheels here, trim rings. The DKW?
No, that 190.
68,000.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Convertible top. The surround. Now the leather he's using
68
is improper. It's a perforated leather. 190SL never used that, so I'll have to talk with him and see if that's what he has for the car. They're putting it on these panels, but you can see these panels are pretty warped. I don't know if they're. Looks like they're using the old panels over. If we can get them to look decent, maybe, but normally I put new ones on. I believe the door glass is in here. Here's the headlights. Inside pieces of the door. Looks like the sun visors, which obviously need to be recovered. I don't see any bumpers or bumper pieces at this point, but they could be in the car all wrapped up because there's a lot of stuff wrapped up in the car. There's the steering wheel. Okay, there's the seat frames. Really stripped that baby down. Gas tank, spare door. There's the hood and deck lid that he has extra. That emblem needs to be cleaned up and touched up and probably used because I don't think you can buy those any longer. There's this heater box. Blower. Blower's not totally froze up, a little stiff, might be able to be cleaned up. Ah, here we go. Bumpers. There's the seat frames. I can see why they thought that they would go with a perforated vinyl, because someone put perforated inserts in here years ago. Don't recall that ever being done on the 190s. Looks like he's got Bilstein shocks, which are nice. Some other spare pieces, door pillar, one of the water tubes. See if that can be a little bent. Might be able to straighten it out, sandblast and use it. Otherwise, we have stainless steel ones. These are moldings for the dash, moldings for the top of the door. And we'll go over this a little more when we get things laid out. But here's the covers for the license plate lamps on the rear body, or on the bumper, and they go inside the bumper guards. There's another bumper end, door handles. Looks like he sent a lot of stuff out. Hopefully that came back from the plater intact and operational. We do have an exhaust header. He will need an exhaust system. I asked him about that. He wasn't sure what condition it was in, but this tells me what I need to know. The manifold is correct, but everything else is will be needed. And he's going to need, yeah, something tells me he's going to need a heater box. That's the driver's side. And here's the passenger's side. Actually, it's intact, a little pitted, and the little flapper still works. So that can be rebuilt. We would send the core out, have the core boiled out, and I'll put a new seal in the valve. He's missing the rod or lever here that actuates it, but we'll get back. We'll spend some time going through and kind of inventorying what we have as we start our assembly. But it looks like we'll pick out something like doing the interior, recovering the dash and things of that nature. But we got to make sure what kind of leather he has before we get too much farther. Yeah, bring it on over here a minute. The engine's been rebuilt, according to Bill. Looks like the transmission's been gone through. There is no grommet here. There's supposed to be a rubber boot here, prevent dirt and debris, mice and other vermin getting up inside the clutch. Just observation-wise, the oil pan's been whacked pretty hard, and someone TIG welded it up in the front and the bottom. So I'm assuming that it looks pretty good. I'm assuming that that's not going to leak. Looks like the booster's been gone through. Rear axle's in here. Is the front suspension main body up under the car already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Subframe.
The subframe's under the front end? Okay. We'll get everything in here. When the guys come in tomorrow, we'll kind of go through and inventory what we got and figure out where we're going to start.
Yeah.
Everything's moved in here for Bill's car. Preliminarily looking through boxes a little bit, getting a feel for the pieces that are here, condition of different things. I believe he already bought a new heater box. He may have even bought some pieces to this one which we can repair, so we'll give him his money back. I don't think he's going to need it. I gotta look into this and kind of clean it up. I don't know what this is covering up, but preliminarily checking the twist and the play of the kingpins. It looks as though they've been replaced at one time, and they don't feel real sloppy, so we'll probably just tape those off when we sandblast things and clean things up and use them, because it doesn't appear that he needs them. Wheel bearings are dirty, but wiped one down, shines up pretty good, so I don't think he needs wheel bearings. steering shocks are 50-50 shocks. They push in as hard as they pull out. This one is totally shot, probably the worst one I've ever seen, because it has no shockability whatsoever. So that's kind of a definite. Already showed these. We looked at both, pulled down both water tubes. This one is crushed almost completely flat. This one's kind of beat up, not toast, but really, really rusty inside. And the end of this one is rotted off part way back. This one's rotted off. I'm trying to find it in the picture. Oh, here we are. This one's rotted off ways back, which tells me the inside of these, because they weren't stainless, they were just plain steel. Inside's going to be not so nice. So probably going to have to put a set of those tubes on. Some of the shocks appear to be Bilstein's gas, and if they're still usable, yeah, they look like I got pretty good tension yet. We'll use them over. I see the rear axle only has one. I don't know where the other one is, but we will find that. Again, this rubber still pliable and good. Just clean it up and use it over. The other one I haven't found yet, but I haven't been looking that hard. All the brake lines here, we're not going to use any of them over. We may need fittings and pieces of like the junction blocks and things of that nature. I did look at the Webers, and they are 40 DCOEs, which was the replacement for the 190SL. And I did spin this. It's a little stiff, but I think we can free it up. He probably will never use the blower anyway. But that's it. Everything's in here now. And the car still sitting on the rack. The front suspension subframe housing is under the car, but has not been, it's been stripped, but has not been sandblasted and painted. And I'm assuming, as nice as everything else is, he's going to want that done. And I'm gonna look here. We'll have to brace this up under there with some blocks to drop that suspension out, so they can get busy with cleaning it up. All right, get the guys going on this tomorrow, which will be Friday the 16th of February 2018. Today is the 15th. And we'll get rolling on it and get some more shots as we progress.
Got a 50-50 chance.
Bill's car here. We noticed something that we haven't, I don't think, filmed before. I may have. I don't remember if I did it or not. This area here is supposed to be completely rolled and crimped against this inner metal piece. And then tack welded so that it reinforces this fender so it can't flex. And this hasn't been rolled. Well, it's been rolled only enough to miss the door. Just enough to clear the door. Both sides are that way. Now we're going to set this. You ready? Now we're going to set this windshield in place. We're kind of concerned how that thing fits. We'll probably have to heat up that pin and straighten it, because it's bent, but for now,
You're not gonna.
it does go on.
Broken, welded on there, so.
Huh?
It's been broken off, welded
It's
on.
been broken and welded. Long as it goes together,
I'm not worried about it.
it does fit through, so as long as it goes down in.
Going down? I stopped.
Did you clean the paint out of that hole? I did on that side.
Lift it up a little bit, because I'm stuck.
He's stuck over here, Rob.
It's stuck. Lift it up a little. I can go up, but I can't go down.
I'm gonna stop this and help him, and then we'll get a picture after this thing's sitting in place. All right, we got the windshield frame and pillars on. First of all, this rubber seal is put in upside down or backwards. The curl is supposed to be curved downward. So it looks like it's sealing properly, but it'll lift up with air and blow out. So this has to be pulled out and flipped around.
Not flipped around, replaced.
We'll probably have to replace it because they've already cut it to shape and everything, haven't they?
The windshield seal's got to be replaced. It's junk. It's awesome.
So we've got a gap here at the back, less of a gap at the front. We think we can leave this and put a rubber seal in here, and it'll squeeze a little tight there, be a little loose here, but we're going to have to leave it that way. The other side, we have, it fits better than we expected it to, but they had to work on the pins. The pillar pins were all painted, and the holes down inside were painted, so we had to clear that stuff out of there. You can see there's quite a gap between the dash and that pillar there. What we're going to do, so we don't damage the paint, you can see that the dash actually looks like it's been sanded and it dips down there. We're not sure why. We know the pillars were off and back on. We don't know if there's a little bit of adjustment problem there because the frame rails have been changed as well. What we're going to do is make the best of it. You can see that large distance between the black and the white. We're going to fill that and bevel it into the dash so that the leather doesn't have a great big jump right there and everything blends in over to the pillar. So the good news is we don't have to grind into the paint and do all kinds of work up there. We're going to make this work. I'll get a shot from the other side. We're going to make the pillar, actually, it's a bit high. We think that when we put a gasket on there and that they start bolting it down, that it'll pull down in and touch the gasket and we won't have to do anything. It's hard to tell when you're just setting these on because this has to be mounted to curve it.
We're going to have to consider, and we don't know until we bolt it on, but you're going to have to put the soft top on.
To make sure it comes forward. And
That windshield, one side's forward, one side's back, that top bow is not going to fit the windshield. So we might have to shim up this pillar post higher to make the windshield actually fit the same on both sides.
We'll take some measurements off the rocker up on each side and kind of check that out.
You can.
But you can see what we're talking about here. That this distance here, leather goes up and over that and just underneath of there. And you'll have a big step. So we'll blend this back in and it gets leather covered anyway, so we just want it to be smooth.
Right. The whole
So we're not as concerned about that as we were. We're pretty sure we can live with it. This we got to talk to the customer about. This really should be crimped and then tack welded, which will destroy the paint in this area. I don't know if we leave it, what's going to happen there. Body's going to flex and eventually crack the paint or what?
Yes, it will. Eventually it'll crack.
So this is supposed to be, it's crimped a little better up here.
But most of these people don't drive these cars that much, so.
So if the customer's not going to be on the road all the time, maybe it's something to leave alone, but we'll talk with him. And so it's not as bad as we kind of expected, but we do have to mount the frame on here, convertible top frame. That is shimmable with some spacers and it's adjustable a little bit, but we got to make sure that because these pillars were all off and this angle here can change a little bit based on the pillar, want to make sure the convertible top still seals and it comes down snug on both sides. So we got some preliminary stuff to do. We're going to put a new window in here. The old one is scratched and I have to check around delamination or not. We'll wash it and take a look. Never mind. There are very deep scratches that won't buff out. So the windshield's going on, a new seal, and we'll replace this. Although someone did, they put it in wrong and trimmed the corners and all that. So it's going to be installed wrong. It won't fit properly. So we'll get busy with that. and get the video off to the customer and see what he wants to do with these fenders. If he's not going to be driving this car all the time, maybe we can just leave it and he can live with it. Back on Bill Bartell's stuff here. Looking the motor over. He's got a late 56. This is the wrong cylinder head for a 190 SL in that era. It's supposed to be 8.8 compression ratio, and this is 8.7. And the block, let me get my flashlight out, maybe I can. The block is a 121 920 10 007681. This is a 1959 sedan engine block. So it's the wrong engine block and the wrong cylinder head. There are no pins in here to hold a timing chain in location, so the timing chain guides aren't in it. We're going to pull the valve cover just to look at what we have to deal with, because we don't know.
I don't even know if there's a cam in there.
Our understanding was the engine was rebuilt and everything was ready to go. And if it hasn't got any guide pins,
Pretty sure
then there's no timing chain or cam, or there's no guides for the timing chain. That's for sure.
no bolt or pin in there.
There's no pin in there either.
Which,
You've got a tensioner in here. You would think there would be a chain and everything in there.
no, there's no tensioner in it.
Oh, I'm talking about here.
Yeah, the tensioner here is in there, but the gear that everything rides on is not in there.
Well, we wouldn't.
Or it's just laying.
Or it's just laying in there. So we'll pull that off. The brackets for mounting look like sedan brackets as well.
The motor mounts or
The motor mount
rears.
rear ones are. So we'll pop this here a sec and see what we have to work with.
It's in there. Well, the pin is in there. You just can't see.
They just don't have the block, the bolt to block it. Well,
Oh, I looked in there and I didn't see it.
there are no timing chain guides up here.
Yeah, there's no upper guides.
There's no upper guides. That's a big. Yeah, it's. Huh. It's a late head, 928 head
Yeah.
on a 59 motor.
Is that gonna get oil?
Yeah, it still gets oil from the front cam bearing. They can still get away with that. Let me think about this.
I don't know.
The pistons are different, so the pistons, your compression is going to be screwed because the pistons aren't. The wrist pin is in a different location. I'm going to have to call whoever did this motor. I'm not sure who it was. Find out what they used. But whoever did it, this is a big no-no. You can't put this together without guides in the timing chain. They totally forgot them. All right, I got to grab that phone here a minute. Just pop it back together and I'll have a talk with the customer.
And the other thing is, he has early brake lines on this. Do you want us to ask if he wants to go back with early brake lines, or if he wants to just change them to the late? Otherwise,
This is Bill's rear end. Took it out, blasted it. I'm not impressed with that bushing, Rob.
yeah, that's just big sleeve.
Yeah, you're gonna need that.
Yeah.
It's like rubber mush. So yeah, I'm not impressed with. Yeah, the rubber's gone. Okay, we do stock those. These are kind of a given. We put them in. They're weather checked and cracked. Okay, they're telling me this is not proper. There's a threaded sleeve that goes in here that guides this pin. None of that's in there. They just stacked up a bunch of washers. All the locations.
Just like that.
It's supposed to look like this. And instead, they just stacked up a bunch of washers. We got to make sure that the threads are okay in the backing plates. But they did it to both sides. So, I can even see a gap right here, Rob.
Yeah, I know.
It's all jammed over to one side.
Well, that's why I wanted you to see it.
So this belongs in there, and it guides and lines. These brake shoes can just kind of flop around in there because they don't have anything to guide them properly. What's the condition of them? You got looks like plenty of meat left on the shoe. Someone's been in there, but I do have all new wheel cylinders, all that stuff for this. This is an early car with the early brake lines with the banjo fittings. They're very expensive. Because we're putting in the later cylinders, we're just going to put in the later lines. Shouldn't be an issue. You can see that has a banjo fitting on the end and a hollow bolt and special washers. We'll just go with the lines that screw directly in to the new wheel cylinders. And we'll come back. That's the easiest thing to do. And it isn't all 100% 56 on this car, so it's not really a big deal. They're going to pull this pin and part it because we're going to put in a non-split boot. Here's part of the reason the customer would like that too. These split boots, no matter what you do to them, by the way, you're going to have to drain and flush that rear axle. That oil isn't oil, it's mud. So we'll drain that and clean that up. Put a solid boot on it. Now, were these the ones, the shocks we thought we could save, or are these the ones that were bent?
I think that one.
This one?
I think that one's bent.
What
I thought he had a whole set sitting on the bent.
He does, but if he doesn't need them, I wasn't going to use them.
I think that's bent.
This isn't right because this should be all the way out. It's not going all the way out.
Right.
So I bet you it is bent and got jammed in there.
Yeah. Stiff.
All right, well, we'll see. We got time yet.
Another thing, this trailing arm right here looks like it's bent.
This arm was twisted.
It's all smashed right here. It looks like it.
Oh, it came loose on him one time.
Oh yeah, that side did too. That side's ground way down.
Yeah, this thing here came apart at one time. There's a kink here. There's a dent and a divot out here.
This one's got a big mark in it too, but it's ground right down in front.
Oh, this came out and hit the ground and ground away. This is the right one, isn't it? This is the one that goes first. Yeah, but it didn't destroy the arm.
No, but it looks like this one caught or something and twisted that end when it came down because it's kind of ground.
It's ground.
Yeah, I know, but it looks like it came down.
So it must have hit a chuck hole or something and twisted it. Were you able to bend it back? Looks pretty straight.
Well, kind of looks straight. We'll see once we get it out.
Let me look down this one. They're supposed to have about a 3 or 4 degree canter outward, and this one does. So I think you're going to be okay.
We'll see.
But it is. Well, it was still in the car at one time, so they must have straightened it enough to put it back in the car.
They can make anything bolt up.
I think we might be okay with that, but we'll see. Anything else on that car that you want me to shoot?
I wanted to show all this. Oh, all these bolts are worn. The top ones are real bad. Top ones are almost gone. The head of the bolt's almost gone.
Can we replace them?
Yeah.
Are they a standard?
Yeah.
They're a standard metric bolt that we can do.
Yeah.
Is it just because of this is very, very pitted? Is it just because it was really, really rusty?
Yeah.
Because this rear axle housing, even your lock washer here is almost corroded completely away.
Yeah, we'll have to get a new one.
But I see some very deep.
Means we're gonna have to go farther in this rear end than I wanted to.
Yeah, I see some very deep pits. Well, it's very muddy. I'm afraid you're going to have bearing problems.
Well, probably.
Because with that oil that looked that nasty, you can have very poor lubrication. It was so full of debris. So, well, it is what it is.
Rip it apart,
Pop it
move
apart,
things around
and we'll
so
see.
we can paint stuff, so.
Okay. I'll get shots of the other car here in a minute. They're just pulling this apart. This come off the nose here. This is the front of the input shaft called the pinion shaft. This is the flange that goes on the pinion, and it has a very deep groove cut right there. I don't know if it's my glasses or what. It doesn't seem to be focusing very well. See that shiny groove? That doesn't belong there. This thing should be smooth as a baby's tush with no cuts in it. A seal will not seal on that properly, so we're gonna have to come up with a used one of these. Go ahead. That bolt might be a little tight. We'll have to break that loose with the breaker bar and then pop it down. They'll finish pulling this down and we'll get some shots after we find out what we find inside. We already know, I'm gonna go see if I have one. We already know we're gonna have this bushing. The bushings that were replaced on the other vehicle, this vehicle here in the shop now, this is the rear axle for this. And both the bronze and the steel bushings that go inside of here to keep that together and keep it from being sloppy, those were bad. They've been replaced. This is what the rear end will look like when we put it back together. And this rear end and this front end will be put back in this vehicle. Currently it has a used rear end and a used front suspension just from our own stuff, so we can roll it around. But here on Bill's car, they're going to finish taking this down, and then I will get some more shots. See, that looks like it might have been tight or something, huh?
Little tight.
I doubt that's ever been apart since 1956 when it was put on. So, I doubt it. I mean, there'd be no reason. The way that bushing in there looks. Look at all the rust that came out. The way that bushing looks, there ain't no way that baby's been apart before. Even your bolts are partly corroded away. Yeah, even the sides of the bolts, some of it's missing. Yeah, that's never been out. So anyway, that's what we'll be doing. This will end up looking like that other one when they get done with it. But until we get it apart, I'm going to assume, Rob, by that, what I'm looking at, that you're going to need bearings. And I'm pretty sure with the price of like 30 bucks a piece for the outer wheel bearings, you're going to put them in too. Because I don't think it's worth.
Put new ones in there.
Yeah, I know you got them for that one. So it'll end up needing these here for sure, this for sure,
I don't know if this is going to come out.
and these here for sure. What's that? You want to warm it up? Sometimes those just shear off inside, and that's not fun. I can warm up that a little bit. Is it coming? Something don't look right. It sheared off inside, didn't it? Well, let's try this one while I got the camera on.
And these tubes, you're not gonna get it.
They put a steel bolt into. They put a steel bolt into an aluminum housing, and they're many times they don't come out. What you just saw snapped right off. There's no way to get any lubricant through this whole housing down into this aluminum here to lube it up. And I think you snapped off right at the top here, didn't you? So it's even stuck in the housing, casting. So we'll have to see if we can save them. Once you pop this off and pull this out, you may be able to heat that up and break the remains of it out, but you don't know if you try.
I just gotta get this loose and cut that mold out.
Can you get it out, or do you have to drill it?
And I have to cut it off and then I can punch it through.
Does it thread into it?
Yeah.
So you have to drill it out.
I have to cut that off and I'll have to drill it out into here. If this housing is good. We won't know.
Well, you don't know because that pulley could be so frozen up and broken that the housing's no good anyway.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so we'll get back. Again,
Cut it.
as you can see that those things are shot. Just take a Sawzall or a knife and cut that right off. It'll push right out the bottom.
Oh man, you still have to work it around.
Yeah.
Break it.
Make sure you cut your thumb really deep. So I'm on film, so I can catch things squirting. You know what I mean?
You gonna let me lay here and bleed out?
No, I'll just film you for a little while. I'll stop it before you lose consciousness. I'm not that mean.
You know the easier way to do this?
What?
Pour a little gas on it, put it outside, light it, and just let it burn out.
Let it burn out.
Yeah. That's what we do used to do at the vet shop.
This is safer.
This is,
With a razor knife right towards your knuckles. This is much safer.
yeah, but we're professionals, so
All right.
it's okay.
So now that'll punch through. Okay. Rob's gonna finish. Well, both of these guys' names are Rob. So if I use the word the Robs, we're kind of like the Bob Newhart show where we have the Darryls. One of my best friends is Tim, so we just call us the Tims. So they'll be popping this thing down. And are you trying to get to this part so he can actually
Yeah, so you can paint it.
sandblast and paint stuff up so it hardens the weekend?
Yeah.
I'm game for that.
I'll be
Okay,
in tomorrow.
I'll leave you alone. We'll get some shots after they get her sprayed up. Axles are out. Getting ready to pull the pins and all here. Just tap that.
No, just pull it out of there.
Pull this out.
It's an actual Mercedes.
Really? Called a pipe that you whack with a hammer.
With thread on it. Thread.
Oh, cool.
Threads into this so you don't damage this.
Yeah.
That should pull right up.
Nowhere's near as clean as that other.
Man, that's muddy. That's not good. That's not good to see that because that means your bearings are most likely toast. Speaking of bearings, these are the axle shafts.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get a picture down inside here. Or not.
Set it down. Set it down here.
I can't. It's kind of hard 'cause it's still attached to the other side. See the mud down in the bottom where it's like sat flat where the axle has been setting down here. There's a bunch of mud.
Oh yeah, way down at the end.
Yeah.
It's hard to see, but I see a bunch of thick stuff
Yeah.
down there on the bottom.
Like yeah, because it doesn't look round.
Yeah.
It looks like it's got a flat spot.
Yeah. Well, look at this.
Wow. Yeah.
This has had water in it.
That's where all that mud is.
This has had water. This is
Oh,
white,
yeah.
creamy.
Yeah.
That's all full of water.
Yeah.
This is not supposed to be bathed by the rear axle. That's why it's not black. But it's been all full of water. Both sides. This side's worse though.
This bushing's toast.
This bearing is history. I can barely turn it. Look at that. It's such a hard spot. I'm spinning the whole spindle. There, the real tight spot right there. Yeah, that bearing's toast. I wouldn't put this bearing back in either because of the rust.
Yeah.
Although, look it spins.
Yeah, that one we might have knocked the clips loose too. So.
You might have hit here.
Yeah, if the clip came down,
Oh, okay.
it's actually riding against.
Right now I'm hitting something.
Yeah, hitting the bearing probably.
But I wouldn't use them over. Look how nasty and muddy they are. You can't. They're only like, I think they're only like 30 or 40 bucks a piece, something like that. There's no way that I'm going to put these back in.
No, but I think he's in these inner bearings too. I ain't got that far apart yet.
Well, you're going to have problems with the bearings on that rear end.
Yeah.
I'm worried about the pitman shaft too. If you've got mud all the way into here, these bearings are toast. Now you're talking about a lot of work putting that thing together. These are all shimmed and set up and spaced, and you have to shim them to set the backlash where the two gears mount together. What are you feeling there? That U-joint?
Yeah, it seems to be alright.
Well, the
It's
problem
hard to tell with the axles.
well, the axle's gone. I got a little bit of end play, but that's normal. That's normal. I can't tell the play this way. In and out, I got some play, but that's normal. That's very minimal. I've never had one of these U-joints that I had to replace. Have you?
Yeah.
Have you? Especially if they're full of water?
I had to replace this whole part because it was so rusted. This part inside wouldn't move.
Really? She's pretty dirty.
Then we went and sandblasted or.
Have you drained the oil out of it yet?
No.
Out the
I think
plug?
It was drained, but this doesn't look round either. It's kind of crowned on the top. So
Well-
I don't know if that's cracked or not.
Yeah, it's cracked. What happened is the axle shaft, someone dropped it, and this came up,
Yeah.
and the tube caught there. This is mushroomed up,
Yeah, it is.
and the casting is cracked right here. But it doesn't go back far. It doesn't go back to where this thing seals. Crap. Yes, it does.
Oh, you can see it pushing through.
Can you see the
Oh, yeah,
the
all the
oil?
way up.
Can you see the oil ooze? Let me just do
Push
this
up.
again. You can see that oil ooze up? See, I'm pushing it up through.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's cracked. There's something to
Halfway
point with.
across,
It's cracked 3/4 of the way across. It's cracked right to there. Right to there. Because there's oil. Get that, Rick?
Damn, that sucks.
Well, I can fix it. I just... Yeah, it broke it. I can see the crack now.
Is that flashlight helping?
Actually, it is. I don't know if we're going to be able to get a... All right, now hold that flashlight again, please. Let me get some of this gooey crap on my finger and I'll shove it back up through there. You can see it coming right up through. Yeah, that casting's cracked.
See it from here.
Yep. What I'll do,
So that means we got to pull it all apart.
well, I'm going to have to heat that, hammer it down, and braze it, and then file it, and then the rubber's going to have to slowly flow over that. Otherwise, you have to replace this entire assembly, the housing at least. Hang on. Heating it could help, but sometimes I can get away with. Sometimes I can get away with this, but sometimes it'll chip it right out.
Shit, wait. It's
Huh?
cracked all the way right there. Look at
Oh, it's cracked. It's cracked in 3
It's all
places.
the way around that, yeah.
Yeah, I see it now. So this whole piece wants to fall out. So we'll have to take it to Coach House, and they'll braze it from right here to right here. because there's a crack right here where my thumbnail is, and it goes that way. The only reason you saw that, because that whole area is already full of oil.
Right. And when you
So-
hammered on it.
When I tapped on it to bring this down, it started to ooze.
Yeah.
So that tells me what I needed to know.
Well, then once we pull the other half off of it, I don't know what them gears are like.
You won't know until you get it apart.
So
If the
gears
gears
and all that are bad.
if the gears are shot, then he has to buy another rear axle.
Right, you're right.
Right. It's too costly to go through these and change the gears and all the bearings. And he's got quite a rusty, pitted housing to begin with. The only way to make this housing look nice, you're going to have to slick some, after you prime it, you're going to have to slick some spot putty and stuff across this to make it look decent. It would make it look better.
Yeah.
So let's get it the rest of the way apart and make a determination as to whether we can use this rear axle or we can't. Are these? I haven't looked at these bushings yet, but with all the water I'm seeing everywhere,
Shot.
there can't be a.
This bushing right here is shot.
There's no chance that they're really good.
That's the metal sleeve.
Yeah, the metal sleeve doesn't look so
It's
good.
all worn.
Yeah, it's got lines and grooves in it. It's supposed to be perfectly polished.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So both of these, well, if these are shot, so are the bronze.
Well, right.
These ride in that bronze, and you're picking up the wear of the bronze on this, and this is supposed to be baby butt smooth.
Yeah.
I like using that word for some reason.
Right.
So, all right.
You could just say rod butt smooth.
The other one's still in that one. So.
You might as well pull this down so you can clean up and blast those backing
Well,
plates.
we gotta check them backing plates. 'Cause I don't
But I want to see if the threads in the backing plates are any good.
Right.
Because if these threads were shot, and that's why they didn't put anything but washers through, I see threads.
You're almost gonna have to blast them first. Anyway.
That's what I'm wondering. Maybe you should hit them. Man, they're pitted. This thing was in water. The whole rear end was underwater. Even your backing plates are very...
Or the boot was junk and they kept washing it and it filled the rear end with water.
No, the backing plate, real rusty all through here. It's almost like this thing... They-
Water for a while.
I don't know if it sat in water, it was a former flood, you know, it was in a flood at one time. It's hard to say. The axle shafts themselves are fine. What is that?
What?
This sleeve here.
It's not a sleeve.
Is that part?
of the
Is
axle.
that part of the axle shaft?
Where the inner seal rides.
Yeah, but why is it so grooved up?
Because the inner seal's pretty rough.
That's not good.
You get a bunch of debris and stuff in the rear end, and if you spin it, it's going to wear that seal off. It's going to wear a groove.
Yeah, it's a groove worn right in the axle shaft. Let me check the other one.
You can't see here.
Now, I'm gonna get this with my thumb and then hand me that rag. This is the one that's been just full of water. That's the only reason you get that color.
Let me switch seats.
This has a groove cut around it too, but
See if we can yank that cable out.
I can barely feel it, which tells me I can take some really fine emery paper and clean that up. Both of them are the same way. So I'm not worried about the axle shaft.
Needs a new emergency brake cable too, by the way.
The e-brake cable, that's all stuck.
It's rotted right off the end.
Eaten off. Like I said, I think this thing was in water. Make sure you put your face really close to that,
Pull out.
so that when it pulls out, you catch the pliers in the nose.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way. That's the best way to learn. Yeah.
I don't know if I got any cutters or anything to cut that.
So the cable's gone. Okay.
Be separated. Man, I don't know if I can get these bolts out.
Before we get too carried away,
I'll pull this other half off.
Pull the half apart. Let's check these bearings. I want to check the gears so we can see the gears, because if they're all torn up, then you're just going to stop because we're not going to pursue it any farther.
Correct.
All right, I'm going to leave this camera for this particular job back here. Back on Bill's rear axle. I'm not going to touch this because we just welded a nut to there. These bolts are so corroded that they aren't a metric size anymore, and they're tapered. Is there one more I can film or not?
They're all kind of.
Well, these are all the same way. You can see that this isn't squared anymore. It's bigger at the bottom than it is at the front. So you can see where the socket tried to go, and it just rounds off. We may have to build weld up here like a 1/4 inch, stick a nut there and weld it like we did right here. Go ahead and grab that, see if it'll come loose. Okay, so then it's coming loose. Obviously we can't use the bolts over, but we couldn't get a hold of them with anything. That's going to be hot, by the way. Only welded it like 3 minutes ago, 2 minutes
Grab
ago.
Grab that bolt. Look at
Just
how
pull it-
bad that bolt is.
Just pull it right out of there.
How about that thing? Huh?
So
The whole crying.
they were really bad. So we're going to attempt to, in the very center, I don't know if I can film this very well from back here or what, but build a pyramid about a 1/4 inch tall. Okay, then hold that nut with the pliers, like we did on the other one. Are all of them the same?
Oh, yeah.
So they're all shot.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then he's going to reach inside. Try to make that as square as you can. Like that. And he's going to reach inside, starting with the weld he already put in, and working his way out to the nut. And then seal that baby right up. That's good. If you're touching the nut on each side, you're going to be okay. And then make sure you stick your tongue on the...
He sounds like Bill Murray narrating.
Go ahead while this is cooling and do whatever you can reach. If they're all the same problem, do what you can reach. Let me move that rag so we don't set things on fire. Okay, you got one here.
Can't twist up. So.
Make sure you're squared up good. Rob, you think this is cooled enough to try it? See if that will break loose. If you can push it over the both of them, fine. But if you can't, see if she'll break loose.
Don't want to.
Is it going to shear off?
It feels like it.
See if you can get it over the top of both of them. Tap it. There you go. See, at least you're on some of both now. I don't know how you managed to do that because...
Yeah, it's breaking right off. I'll let it cool a little longer.
I don't know. I'm not sure how much he was able to get onto there with that. He burned it good this way. Look, he was on there pretty good.
Yeah. See, this one's crooked.
We may have to heat up the casting to try and break the thing loose. We can try I can try a sander to the tops of these and flatten them a little better and go down to a UF socket and tap it on. Or you can take a saw and cut the heads off, and we can get a hold of vice grips and warm this. It may be a moot point if the... Is it snapping off?
Looks like that one might be moving.
It ain't moving.
Damn.
It's going to break off.
How about welding to it?
How about just forget it until I pick one day?
If you can reach down inside that hole and in 2 spots weld that to the bolt, we can grind it down Okay, move to another spot so we don't have too much to grind. If you can hit 3 spots, we can sand it down. You're not going to get the socket over that. Oh, you're on the outside nut?
Yeah.
Let it cool a sec. You're still pretty hot.
It is, but it's got.
You want me to get that rag and some water?
It's got a real good grip on it, so.
So you just caught the bottom of the nut. That might work.
Probably do the bottom of that one too. I can't see. I got dots again. Or still.
You want to try it right in there, or are you going to go to the bottom? Okay. Anyway, I'll stop filming. We got to finagle this because the bolts are so rusted off. We're going to improvise until we can get these nuts loose. And again, if this is as bad in the inside as it is on the outside, he's got to have another rear axle. So we'll know in a little bit. Welding the nut from the hole and welding it from the edges did the trick. These are, it broke them loose. Ooh, that's still so doggone hot, I can't hold it. So we welded the nut through the hole, which has been breaking off. They reached in and welded it in 2-3 spots. Give it a little bit more strength. And by golly, that did work. So they're going to keep that same idea going. And then they'll reach in between and weld it in 2 or 3 places right at the bottom. So the socket will still go on about 3/4 of the way down.
Yep. Perfect.
But it worked.
Grab that side there, maybe.
So you've got 3 or 4 more bolts to do, and then we'll get a shot. We got all the bolts out by welding things to each one. 2 came out. They weren't rusted so bad that we couldn't get a socket on them. So 2 actually came out. You want me to get a small screwdriver or a wedge to tap in there? I can tap out here if you want.
Starting to come.
Tap out here a little bit.
Hold it in. Oops. Go ahead. Landed right on the thread.
Did it?
Yeah, with that tool. Hold it up. It's killing me. And this is a little one.
Let it go. It'll lay under here. Well, the bearings are all dark.
It's all dark all over in there.
Yeah, but I mean the bearings aren't shiny. They're all. No, that's not that bad. You won't know until you put a load on it. That just doesn't just pull out, does it? Because it's got spider gears. Oh, the yoke has a little bolt on the end of it, doesn't it? It's got a big long bolt on it. What is it, like 6 inches long or something crazy?
Yeah, go ahead. Nope. Can't hold it? Nope.
Here, can you get through that? Can you get through there with a screwdriver? Into the U-joint?
Go ahead.
Okay. Man, it's tight, whatever you're doing.
Hold on, I'm gonna bust this.
You got a 3/8 ratchet you can put through there? She's tight.
I can't, it can just come out and loosen it the other way.
Look at your socket. Probably gonna have to go 3/8. Look at the mud. I call it mud. It's just dark oil, but look how nasty that oil is.
Yeah. That crap over here is really.
Well, the whole gearbox is filled with that. It's just not a great lubricant. I'm just a little concerned about the bearings and the gears. I don't see big chunks or anything or divots out of the bearing, which is a good sign.
Maybe come around that way so easier if I could. Easier for me.
You got your,
Busy.
yeah, put it in between the universal joint.
There you go. Well, let me get on the nut first. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get right there. Okay, go ahead.
They're coming? Okay. Will that yoke slide out and this ring gear slide out when that's come off? So this can come out? Yeah, well,
It's like mud.
it's like mud, but all the gears are intact until we clean it up. I don't see any chipped teeth.
Spider gears good.
Spider gears look good.
They don't feel bad. They don't feel like they're chewed.
No, there wasn't as much water in this side as by the axle shafts. I think we're going to be okay. Can you spin that pinion gear around so I can see it? Go slow. Let me shine that light in there.
Looks like it's got a good pattern.
They look good. It's got a good pattern. Well, what you're seeing now is oil, but
Right, but you can see the pattern.
there's no wear. There's no bad wear pattern. How does the bearings feel?
Slop in that.
You think we can flush this out?
I think so.
How do you feel when you're spinning that? Is it smooth?
Oh, yeah, it's smooth.
Let me get it from here once. I'm impressed. Considering how muddy that looks.
As bad as that looks and as bad as rusty as the outside.
This is smooth as glass. Okay, we'll flush it, clean it. With it down like this, I'll have them do that repair over here. We should be able to leave this in place. You're just gonna have to flush this out Tuesday.
Drop it in
Get the
tank.
oil, yeah, get the oil out of it. We'll flush this. If we can save these bearings, I'll even do that because
Those are extremely expensive.
they're extremely expensive, but they're also shimmed. You gotta sometimes put them on and off to get the right
Forgot that was magnetite.
get the right gap and all that. And I don't see bad discoloration, and I don't see grooves or chunks knocked out of them. When I see an imperfection, it wipes off with my thumb, so it's not, it's not a. We'll know more. Let's get her cleaned up. We'll drop these in the tank. And this side here I didn't check yet, but wasn't a lot of oil in that rear end, was there?
No, I had them
What
trained.
you see is what we got.
We didn't drain it, so this is what was left. There should be what, a quart and a half?
Yeah.
2 quarts?
Well, you can see the dirt ring where it was. How much water was in it?
That's right there.
Oh yeah. So it only had
That's all clean, and
it only had enough for this to actually dip in and splash it around.
Yeah, that's all that was in it.
Yeah. But it's supposed to be up to this level here, right?
Yeah.
So it had less than half of what it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And it's not that unusual because they do have a tendency to leak. I see small marks in this, but I don't think enough to warrant changing them. We'll decide that after we clean it, okay? All right, well, I want to grab this to the dip tank. We'll
Can't. I got stuff in there.
you have stuff in it.
Yeah, there ain't no room.
My camera has gone all fuzzy on me, and I did not ask it to switch off of autofocus. I don't know what's going on. No, now it seems to be okay. Maybe it's my eyes. It was all blurry. Anyway, we'll get some shots next week. We figure out what we're going to do with this beast. On Bill's car, these items have to be hung up yet, so they can paint them. The front spindles. Got a rack here going right now of a variety of things. We had to replace one of these for Bill because the threads in here were just all chewed out. Somebody stuck an extra bolt, a nut on the outside to hold it in place, and that's not real safe. So he does have another one of these that have been blasted. These are his brackets. These two items belong to this car here to finish putting that front suspension over here back together. This is what the other suspension will look like when it's finished, and this is what the rear axle will look like when it's finished. So we'll be spraying those tonight with primer and paint, black paint tomorrow, but there'll be more things hung up here shortly when they get ready to spray them. All right, I'm going to record here. On Bill's car, there are some extra reinforcements like that the car originally didn't have, but for whatever reason they decided that it needed it. These as well. Didn't put one over here because of the gas tank filler. A few little spots. We're going to see what we can do about caulking them or whatever, but there are little, I don't know if you can see them or not, it's kind of dark under there. There are little pinholes everywhere in these areas here that they really didn't, they didn't seam seal before they painted it. So I think what we'll do is get something clear, just make sure that they're sealed so it doesn't look. But this will give you an idea. They pretty much put, apparently it was so rusty that they repaired and put in a section here of homemade tunnel on the bottom. I don't know why this is cut away, but
Somebody just shoved screwdrivers in here and make dimples or something. Drains.
I don't know what they did to those drains. We'll have to try and straighten them out because these are brand new frame caps.
Well, it's not even in the right spot. The drain goes right there. So
Well, then they must not be our frame caps.
No.
This one is.
That one is.
This is our frame cap.
This is off-low too.
Then I don't know what they did. I'll have to go back and look at the
Look
listing.
what they did.
All our frame caps have the indent in the right spot.
It's not fully welded.
No, that's all
So they
right.
just, so they
It'll
just
fall
modded
off
it.
sooner or later.
They didn't fully weld it right there.
What's that?
That
They added
this whole piece, this whole end down here,
Uh-huh.
and they just welded parts of it, stitch welded it, and then just filled over the outside with Bondo.
Oh, so I
I
see.
don't know what they did over on this.
I can't see it very good. I don't have enough light.
This side kind of looks like they welded both pieces.
Right there. They put a patch on the back of it.
They patched all of it.
Oh, it's not so good.
Oh, they didn't put the filler panels in here.
The filler panel's not in, and yet it's welded up now. It's welded up and painted, or all painted, and
They
the
put these little bolts in, which aren't
is that seam, that little patch in there, is that seam welded all the way, or is that left part way too?
No, that seems like it's seam welded all the way up. This patch back in
Yeah, I see it. It looks like I have
This
welds.
is a patch, and this is a patch. So they patched both ends of the rockers, and they left a big gap here.
I see the weld seam there. I'm gonna have to get some better lighting.
Well, they did the same thing over here. Just left a big old gap in between. Put your finger in between.
Does this thing have a light?
Yep, it's on.
Okay, now I got a light. There we go. Okay. There's a seam there where they patched it. There's a seam on the back side where they patched it. And it's not seam welded inside here. We're gonna have to spray that with something or that's gonna rust out.
I'll probably caulk it first.
And they welded this on, but like you said, only part way. It must be just slicked over on the outside.
Yeah.
You got this. You're gonna have to spray. We're gonna put some kind of. We're gonna have to put some kind of rust proofing on here, or that's gonna get water in it. And it's gonna creep right back out again.
Old Ford license plate model.
That's been repaired, but that looks like they welded it all the way down. That's been repaired, but it looks like they welded it all the way down. I don't know why they didn't on the other side. This has been patched here and welded, it looks like all the way down. And the same thing here, it's been patched up inside there.
This looks like they used a chunk of rusty metal and made a patch to the outside.
Let's look here.
Holes in it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to use some clear. They got,
All up in there.
there's, I don't know what else to do. He's already painted. We got about 6 pinholes there. There's a hole straight through up there.
Big old hole
Big
there.
hole here.
Yeah, we're gonna have to inspect it before we let this out of here. We'll have to seal those. You got some over here too?
Yeah, there's some up in here.
Oh, sorry, again. Up there, right there, all through here.
Yeah, they didn't seam seal it very good. I don't know if that's the grounds through it or what, but that is a
They
hole.
welded a patch.
There's a hole going right through there.
Big old
Yeah.
patch coming. You can see the outline.
Up here in front of the, there's 2 holes in front of that little hole. 2 little holes in front of it. See 'em?
Yeah.
It's not focusing worth a toot, but okay, there we go.
And he doesn't plan on ever driving this, right?
Oh, they're gonna drive it. I don't think they're gonna drive it a lot.
Oh.
They've got some kind of plastic gizzies pushed in there.
Old Ford.
And those,
license plate.
they'll work. They'll work.
Well, they won't rust.
He made a homemade hood prop rod holder.
Looks pretty big, don't it? They got this seam sealed pretty nice. Okay. We need to inspect the wiring harnesses. I'm ordering wiring harnesses today. And I'm ordering leather today.
Okay.
And they take a while. They don't build harnesses unless they get at least,
Oh, this is like grind.
unless they get at least 6.
Hole ground right through it.
Yeah, they did grind a hole right through that. Like I said, we're gonna have to mix up some of this paint and fog it in some spots. I don't know what else to do. There are too many little imperfections that we can't leave.
This is a few different colors, so.
DB169 supposedly. Isn't this the same color we're supposed to put on the back of the bumpers anyway?
This is the wrong color for the bottom of the car, but it's close.
We'll have to see if he's got any of the paint left.
This is just some gray somebody bought.
It's supposed to be 169 because they did ask me back when they were
It might be, but it might be a newer
a newer color, or newer code.
newer color. Because it doesn't have enough green in it.
All right, so we got a visual inspection kind of at the bottom.
Painted the barrel.
And you know what though? That doesn't look that bad. It's not the right color, but it doesn't look that bad. All right, we're gonna inspect the wiring harnesses so we can get those buggers ordered today.
License plate, license.
We didn't think we could find the wiring harnesses, but we found them. Show me here what we've got on this one. Ooh,
What?
this is the insulation.
This is your main.
Well, that's that main wire going
Your
to
main
the.
power wire.
Yeah.
For the generator.
All right. Well, the insulation's just flaking completely off it.
been pieced together here
More than once.
more than once.
This is all supposed to be cloth braid wrapped too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I see bare wires here too.
Yeah, these are all headlight wires. Headlight turn signal.
Yeah, okay, so the ends are supposed to be bare because they go to a block.
Right. They're all cracked and brittle though.
Yeah. Well, these early harnesses, the insulation has a tendency to flake off them, and that's been all taped up.
Headlight wiring.
This is common. It's supposed to have a plastic sleeve through part of it, and then cloth braided through all of this, and the braiding's all torn off. That insulation's all nicked up. Some of that cloth insulation wasn't worth a hoot.
Yeah, that's their starter wire.
All the new wiring harnesses have a rubberized insulation over the wire.
That's the generator.
We'll probably get a new generator harness. Is that one?
That ain't good, plus there ain't no wires on it.
Is the fuse box usable?
Fuse box looks good.
Yep, not all corroded. A lot of these things get all corroded in here so bad that you can't even get anything on. The screws are intact on the back. Look at here.
Yeah, you got a bunch
Look inside of
wires
there.
and all.
Look at they've been cut and spliced. And there's even bare wire all over the place here. Okay, so the front harness is kind of a given. It's really nasty. Brake lines they saved. We're not going to use any brake lines or fuel lines over again. Tail lights. That's the other tail light. And then coming off of here are your license plate lamps, right?
That's the ground for the license plate lamps. The wires that are cut in here are the license plate lamps.
So they just cut the wires out.
This wire and coming out of here is the
This is supposed to have a loom going out through the body. Oh, wait a minute, not through the body. This is an early car. This has license plate lamps on the body. Are there proper holes cut in that tail panel back there for license plates? Don't tell me no.
I doubt it.
Take a peek.
56. So
Take
it
a
could go
peek.
either way.
No, 57 is when they changed it. 57, early 58, I believe.
No, no, it's got holes in the tail panel and lowers.
Has it got two little round holes
No,
in the tail panel?
it goes through the tail panel to the bumper.
Nah, he's got bumper guards with lights in them.
You sure?
Yeah.
Make sure,
Yeah, there ain't nothing on the body.
because then we'll get him a late harness if he's already converted to late.
You gotta be careful with that because the late rear is fine,
Late rear.
but then go with the early front.
Key start only on the front. Yep.
Key start.
So this harness has been,
Bumper guards, I'll have to find them, but I'm pretty sure they got holes in them.
this harness has, the front part of this harness, other than the insulation being cut and split, have the wires been damaged at the same time. It doesn't appear to be there. Yeah, you're going to find a variety of things. They put some stuff in those boxes that don't even go to a 190, so.
Yeah, he's got bump guards with a hole in them. Rears.
So he's got late bumpers. Okay. Do you want to try and fix this, though? This thing's not...
I can fix it.
Huh?
I don't know if time and money we can fix it. Yeah, I can just slice it apart.
I mean, he would like us to use this if we can. This is where the license plate lamps have to be attached, right?
How much is it?
I think it's about $380 for a new one.
So you're gonna have about half of that just in trying to repair it.
I don't know.
New always looks better, but
Well, the insulation, I opened that up a little bit, and I don't see any broken wires in there. They look okay?
Yeah, other than where they poke through them with a probe to test them.
Yeah. He's got some other, he's got other things that he has to have. Like we found some MIG shift temperature gauge that isn't even a Mercedes temperature gauge. Well, they're like $400 or $500 to buy a new temperature gauge. So, I mean, he's gonna get more and more money into this. I don't want to put a piece of junk back in there, but if it's only a couple of small breaks that we can fix, I don't mind doing that. We can. This is not really visible.
I'll have to slice it apart.
We can wrap that.
Visible.
We can wrap
the
that.
back of the car.
Yeah, but it's up high in the back. We can wrap it with electrical tape and it'll look decent.
Actually, I don't even know if they put tabs in the car to hold the wire.
We need to look at that. So we have, looks like the battery cables. This has to be the ground, Rob, because it's got It's got frayed wire all over the place. I'm not so happy with that. They're going to go look at the car here a minute, and then we'll walk over and take a peek. I don't see the... This is a given. This one here is... It's got too many broken wires and frayed wires, and there's no way I can use that over again. Just to give you a little shot here of our shop. Dies in die racks, all labeled for the different things that we manufacture. A lot of Porsche pieces that we make for a couple different Porsche companies that sell all over the world. This is warehouse stock of Porsche panels and dies.
The junction block that goes in the trunk
Yep.
for a late is not down here.
Are there weld tabs? Hey, I see
there's tabs.
I see a weld tab under here.
Tabs on here.
One.
So you're gonna.
Okay, that's where that wire tucks in. Okay, he's got the late.
There's no holes in there.
He's got the late.
Got the late tail panel, but there's no holes in here.
So we'll have to drill them.
Drill holes
Yep.
through this, which is.
This is actually an early car. It's supposed to have a hole here for a license plate lamp and a hole here for a license plate lamp, because I think they did it up through early '58. This is a late '56. So this car has had some later panels and so on put on it, but it's had later bumpers put on it, because the bumper guards have lights in them, right?
Right.
Okay, well, that's what we'll stick with then. So I'm going to say we'll repair the rear harness, and we're going to buy him a new front harness, and we'll take the money that he saved from that and probably put it
I'll
in.
just cut in the harness, then I'll just cut up here or whatever and just run wires down.
Yeah.
I don't, because it's not, you can't go to the junction in the center where the wires actually are supposed to go.
No, there's no junction block there anyway.
Junction block.
We'll just come in and
Snip it. Add it.
actually it should go. We'll have to put a junction. I think we want to put a junction block in. That hides the wires from catching on anything in the trunk. So we'll do it right, but
Yeah,
we'll have to make something. Colin's got oodles of wire. He can make you a nice little harness with a sleeve over it and everything. Those little plastic sleeves.
I'm not worried about. It's just, where do you want it? Do you want it to come out here and
Yep.
then the junction block, and then you got to weld the tabs on here to hold the wiring, the tabs in here to hold the wiring?
They didn't put any tabs on the trunk floor, did they?
No, they put no tabs on it.
So the wire that comes out of here does a turn. It's supposed to be a tab here to hold it down,
Supposed to be
a tab back there to hold it down,
Supposed to be one
and a
of them.
tab right here to hold this down. So we got to grind and weld a tab in here.
Or just tape it and throw the floor mat over the top and call it.
Maybe we can tuck it in and put the floor mat over the top. Yeah, there's just little things missing.
A lot of work. We already got to try to fix these because they drilled the holes. So we're gonna have to try to.
Yeah, I didn't mention that to him, that's been drilled out.
Wow, you taped it.
Did I? Okay. this thing's flashing that I think that the battery's going dead. So let me
Yes, you could put a regular trunk seal on it even.
let me go back and get stuff ordered for you that we need.
Regular trunk seal.
I'll get the leather ordered and I'll get the wiring harnesses ordered. Steve just sold the last ones this past week, so we got to get more of them coming. We'll get some shots later. The battery's going to go dead here pretty quick, so just something real fast. The windshield frame is, man, it's just not going to polish up, I don't think, all the way. And we got a pretty healthy dent. I don't know if you can see it in the light or what, but pretty healthy dent right there we're going to try and fix. We'll get this off and pop it apart. Going to put a new window and seal around it. We're going to look and see if we have a rear axle for Bill's car. Had cracks here, and I just moved this with my fingers. You see that it's all oil soaked, like the crack has been there. What I think was holding this in place properly was the boot and the clamp, because these can set back in here and lean on each other and kind of stay in place. But you can see that there's no fresh brake anywhere. Every crack is full of oil. You see it here. So we got to clean this up. We got to bevel this, bevel these, set them back in place as close as possible, and then braze them in. I don't want to try and nickel arc weld, because the whole unit would have to be heated up really, really hot for that to stick properly. So we'll do these probably one at a time. Put a little clamp over here in the corner and get it just right, and then braze it in, and then braze this other piece in here. You can see it kind of sits there. But pretty much nothing holding these in other than the boot over the top. See, they'll sit there and lean on each other. So with the boot and the clamp over the top, I can push down on here and they stay. But if you lift up, they come right out. So, more deer?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Right before 9 Mile,
I'll be darned.
coming north.
So we'll get this cleaned up and fixed, and then we'll paint it, see how it looks. We should be able to fix it so that a seal will stay in there and that piece won't fall out. You can see that this, now that this has been blasted, that this has been a lot of water around this housing. Pretty pitted, but not eaten through, and it's not a big issue. We'll just clean it up, get it painted nicely. Speaking of painted, so we got more deer wandering by, huh?
Well, this one's on the side of the road. The only was hit that long ago.
Oh, this one's hit?
This one's hit.
And where?
Right on Alpine, right before about maybe.
It was there last night when I went home. Down M37.
There's a deer?
Yeah,
Oh.
about 100 yards from the turn here.
Coming north was the last night.
Coming north. It was there last night when I went
It didn't look like it's been there that long.
home.
This is Bill's, the rest of his front suspension is in the box over there. These are as many pieces as we could fit up here. His spindles. These spindles belong to
Everybody go pick up Dyson's out of the trailer and wait.
Michael's car.
Just give me about 10 minutes and I'll go out there and fix the trailer. It's okay.
Well, that's
I
fine.
told you
Either
one
way.
thing a little while ago.
Well, you didn't tell me, so
We got these that have to be painted up
No biggie.
today. And then we're doing the brake drums and so on. Back here to Bill's rear axle. You can see we've cleaned it, beveled it. This will set in here. It's not going to set in here any longer because we ground it down. That will set there. This will go here. I'm going to heat her up with a torch. Warm up this entire area. Nothing rubber is in here any longer, so not worried. There is a rubber seal here. I don't think heat's going to transfer that far at this point. We'll warm this up, braise this, and file it, grind it. We have to make this round so that clamp will seal properly that boot. So I think that'll help. It does kind of hold it, but it pulls it too far. I can shim it, I suppose.
You can get it in the center.
I can shim it. I can shim it. That's a good idea, actually. I can shim it over here. The heat gonna bother that any?
No, it's not. Just a magnet and a piece of steel.
All right, then I'll get some I'll get some shims and stick them in here and bring that back where it belongs.
That's actually about right where it goes.
You think so?
Yeah.
Let me try this one.
I don't know if that one is.
Take a look from the top, if you would. Does that look fairly round? Maybe we should leave it where it is. Whoop. Can you get it in there or not? No, I ground it, so it's going to be ground a little bit past where it needs to be. Make sure you don't have any oil on your hands.
I think it wants to suck it in.
Ooh,
it's
that,
actually pretty good.
There, it's sat about where you want it.
You almost need another magnet.
Can we stick a magnet on the outside?
Or I wonder if I can
Colin
put
has
this
magnets over here.
to the center.
It's going to be really hard to get it perfect, but you get me right there. Looks like this bevel. Looks like the bevel's about right. I think you got it.
That circle looks good right
Yeah,
there.
all right, let me heat that up and we'll give it a rip.
At least you can get it started.
Yeah. I know this looks funny. Kind of ugly. Gonna let it cool naturally and not force cool it, just let it cool off. There should be a little extra everywhere inside, on the outside, on the lip. You can see where it puddled and ran down. This will be sanded. That's pretty warm there yet. This will be sanded, blended. All we need is for it to not break away and give us a sealing surface. So there's a little bit of brass inside here. We won't take much of that down, just clean it up. The burnt black stuff is the flux. Obviously the shiny is the brass. And then we'll sand it, file it. A yoke sets in here and has to float because of the independent rear suspension. So you can't have a great big lump in here, but that little bit there is not going to hurt anything. It'll add some body, some strength to that. We'll leave a little bit of brass out here, but blend it in. And then if we have to touch it up, we'll do that afterwards. But this will save him from buying another whole center rear end housing. What happens is people drop these rear ends, and that yoke that's sticking out of here that attaches to the axle shaft, when the rear end excuse me, center drops away and the shock absorbers are still holding the ends up, that inner yoke comes and smacks here really hard. That's what happened. It cracked it in 3 spots. And then when we noticed it, tapped the back down to where the wasn't so ovaled out and cracked, we saw oozing on the sides. And when I just grabbed it with my hands, it broke right off, and you could see that there was, and been broken for quite some time. So we can't obviously leave it that way, so hopefully this will fix it. We won't have to, other than sand it down and file it, we won't have to do anything more. We can clean this up, paint it, and put it back together. Back here for Bill Bartell's car, they're cleaning and inspecting things. This is the rear emergency brake cable. You can see a cable coming out of there and nothing coming out of there. So that's toast. What they attach to,
Are these?
they come around and go through a pulley in here.
They go, yeah, through here, and then there's a pulley in here that
Yep.
brings it to the brake.
Brings it out. This one here apparently has come apart okay.
Yeah, it came apart hard, but it came apart. I mean, it's still good.
He had to soak it for about a week to try and free things up. The pulleys appear
Usable.
to be usable. They're not perfect. They're not chipped. They all came out.
I still have to see one of these. I don't know if I can
bushing?
get the bushing out of it.
Yeah.
This one will come right out. This one doesn't want to move.
If the bushing is totally froze, the bushing actually
Oh,
gets greased.
I'll sandblast it and then heat it up a little bit.
This one here is, when it got cleaned, is corroded right through. When tap on the bolt to get the thing apart, and it kind of obliterated. And you can see,
It's so corroded.
you can see that there's debris in where the crack was. So this thing's been cracked for a long time. So this will have to be replaced. It was completely corroded right through anyway, and debris got inside of there and just froze everything to pieces. So that's going to have to be replaced. So we don't show as much progress on the car if we go back and video the car, but this type of stuff here and here, it's all been disassembled and sandblasted and much of it painted, but there's a lot of little things that you don't think about that have to be done, like this. All that stuff has to be sandblasted, and there are hundreds of little items that you have to clean up and then primer and paint. Can't put it back on there, either rusty or the bolt's all shot. So
The rest of his car set of paint on.
I think we caught the fact that you had painted a lot of other stuff, and we'll catch up with that when we start reassembling. Is this his too, or is this the other car?
Can't remember.
Well,
I'll know.
we can tell because you have them all separated.
Well, a lot
So,
of stuff is in a crate. So
We'll get some shots here. A few more hours.
if it's not in the crate, because that's his other crate, that's his.
Rob made mention of something here on the doors for this car. I'm looking at a late door on your side.
Yep.
If you look at the area up here on top,
All of this up here.
that's where the door latch or the door handle goes to pull, and then the regulator sits here, and the window handle comes out through that rectangular hole there. However, he's telling me that this door is completely different, and it is. This does not have
That double step.
the double set of holes here. The casting isn't big enough to mount the door handle. This has
It's in a totally different location.
this is in a different location as well.
This whole thing is in a different location.
This is.
Yeah, the door opening handle mounts way back here, and on that one it mounts way up forward.
Okay, so my first set of holes are within 4 inches of the front, and yours are like 6.
Yeah.
Okay, so this whole door frame, this whole door shell is completely different. Now, let me explain why we know this. Part of how we know this.
See how wide this gap is here?
Yeah.
It's because of the door locks. That one doesn't have a door lock, so it just has the release. And
This door latch for this side,
this latch is an early latch.
this is a late, wait, this is an
That's an early door latch.
early door latch, that's a
So is
late
this
door
one.
latch.
This is an early door latch.
So he's got early door latches, one mounted into a late door,
Yeah.
and over there mounted
No way to
into an
lock the
early door, huh?
There's no way to lock the door. There's no door lock.
Well, it's accommodated for one. That right,
This is accommodating for the door lock.
that's for the
here,
door lock
here.
lever,
But this latch does not.
and that's
have
for
a
the door
lock.
opening lever. This doesn't have either. This doesn't have the door opening lever mount.
No.
And here, for the late door lock, the whole casting piece right here is missing that you see over there. So we're not sure what we're going to do. By the way, the door trim panels are also different, right?
Yes.
On early and late.
Yes.
The size of the door pocket's different.
Yes.
And we ordered all standard door trim panel
Probably.
for, like a 57 car. This is a 56, I think.
Right.
So
Well, even a 56. Unless
We'll
it's
see.
Early 56.
early 55 up to early 56 had a different size door pocket, but his is a late 56, so I think we're okay. But I have no idea what year that door is right there.
This door?
Yeah,
This door is mid-year 56 and on.
okay, but the door panel should still fit, but we don't even know what mechanisms we have to open and close it.
The door panels that he has are early.
Okay, what I'm saying is we would have to give him locking and opening mechanisms to utilize that door that won't match this side.
I can,
We'd have to weld aluminum in there. We'd have to do all kinds of stuff.
yeah, if he has early door handles, I don't know, I might be able to make it work.
You might be able to figure out where they go, drill and tap holes.
I might be able to, you have to cut this out of it. This has to be cut.
That's got to go.
for-
You can utilize the one hole. You got two holes over there. We have one here.
Yeah, and you
But
just- you
what
just
we have to
use
measure
one
from here
hole.
down. You're going to just use one hole.
It doesn't matter. It'll line up.
Okay.
The-
These look
the
similar.
problem is going to be
These look similar.
where this is.
These look similar. This is not.
This little pocket right here.
Yeah.
We have to modify it so it's like that.
Well, I'm not sure I'm even going to let him know yet
That
until
would-
we spend a little more time on it.
That would be probably the easiest and less damaging to the doors.
I
do.
told him we had his wiring harness in and that we were going to get going with it.
I haven't
But
seen it.
when I checked with you, I grabbed the wrong harness. You need a
Oh.
key start,
Oh, this is, oh,
and I had the key turn and push button start.
Right.
I can modify it, but in another week or so, I think I'll get the other one in. So, unfortunately, until we get the wiring and stuff in, you do have the leather. We can actually get started with the leather on this car, huh?
already did.
No, I'm talking about doing the dash and.
I brought the surround in and had Rob clean it all up today. Take
Okay,
the leather
so
out.
we are working on
We were
that.
going to do the door panels, but I said hold off on that until we figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, we may have to modify these
We're
doors.
going to have to make door panels themselves, probably.
Is this his front suspension sitting here? It just has to be put back together?
Yeah.
We just got to put the rest of the goodies on it?
Yeah, they just got to get.
Well, have we painted that set yet or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think everything's painted.
The only thing that's not painted are Michael's hubs.
Oh,
They
the
didn't
hubs
make it into that
aren't
one
painted
batch.
For this either.
Huh?
The hubs aren't painted for this.
Okay, so we got another batch of black to
We do
do.
have another batch, and he's.
And then we can finish putting his front suspension and his rear end together and put it under the car.
No, I need the plated stuff.
The cadmium plated stuff. Okay. We'll get some shots in a bit. Okay. We got Bill's car here, but we have the leather hide here laid out. Rob's got his patterns here. These are patterns for all the individual things. This is the dash, I'm assuming.
Oh, this one is.
That one's the dash? Oh, because it's got a curve in it. We don't know why the hole is there, but that came free. tail and the back of the butt would be in here. I'm assuming there was a scar or something in there. All these little individual pieces.
I made these. These don't actually go on the car originally. This is where the pull handle goes under the dash. The little braces that hang down under the dash.
Oh, and you go around it.
Normally they're painted black, but they just don't
Okay.
look right. It looks like it was a mistake.
Are these sun visors?
No, we don't have sun visors.
Okay, but
That,
oh, that's the door pocket, or is that
this,
the?
This is the back of the well
Oh, along the sides,
side.
the
Pieces.
sides of the well. Okay, okay.
This is
'cause the door panel
that's
kit-
the inside of the glove box.
Yeah, the door panel kit has the other goodies in it.
Bottom of the glove box. The back wall. Oh.
This is the
This piece and this piece are the back wall.
yeah. One's on the
This-
outside, one's on the inside. This is the dash.
This piece right here, this really long piece,
Yeah.
is the back wall.
Okay, above the convertible top area.
Above the, yeah.
And this one is the
That-
bottom of the
bottom.
convertible top
Yeah.
well,
This one is the bottom of the dash.
and that one's the bottom of the dash. Okay. And we have some square footage here left for mistakes, or we find something with a nick or the grain doesn't look right, we can scribe something else out of there.
Looked it all over. It's a decent height. It's shaved thin too. Is that what you had it cut thin?
No, but it looks like it's been skived, which is perfect for us.
Pretty thin.
That's good.
You don't have to skive these pieces.
And the dash.
No, don't have to skive.
Your skive, the dash is probably skived enough. That's good.
I'll have to skive this glove box piece because otherwise it won't want to bend around that piece of cardboard.
All right, back to these door issues. That is a late door. We've decided to saw that brace right there out because it doesn't belong there on an early door.
Well,
Where it
it's
is
in the
here?
way.
Well, it's
It'll
in
be
the
in-
way. It doesn't.
it'll
The
be-
early door didn't have it.
The rod will hit here.
Yeah, and then we're missing the parts that bolt right here
Yeah.
to those 3 screws, and the rod that goes all the way back to the latch. Those are gone. We can't find them. We've gone everywhere through his stuff. I sent the customer pictures, asked them if they could find them. We've looked through his stuff quite thoroughly,
We are missing one seat track also.
and we're missing one seat track, one seat channel. I do have this stuff used, but he doesn't want to have to buy it, then that would be good. Now, in here, this all gets leathered. This is all supposed to be fairly smooth. They've got gobs and gobs of caulk. There's welding wire sticking out right here with a big welding bead. I don't know if you can see it. It's dark. It's hard to see. Right there is actual welding wire sticking from the back in. There, I broke it off. All this area has to be smoothed out, ground down. There's a great big ball of weld right there. This all gets leather lined, and that'll be like a big sore thumb sticking out from underneath of it. So we have to come in here and grind. There's another great big weld right there. It's probably almost 1/4 inch tall. We got to grind all this down, smooth it out, and then we'll shoot some paint or primer on it, but it's not 100% necessary. Leather is going to line all of
I'll
this.
shoot edge primer on it.
Yeah, leather is going to line all of this, so we don't need to do a black gloss or a final paint of it. Just a good primer over it. So they're going to be working on that, be altering the door, and he'll start leathering
The other thing I have
the individual pieces.
found in his part, maybe they're under the convertible top, but I have not found the deck panels.
These cardboard panels here.
Those, yeah, there's wood.
Yeah, sorry, the wood. Yeah, the wood. I don't know why I said cardboard. I'll look. I did not come across those in all my digging either.
Yeah. The other thing is these holes that they drilled are way too big. I don't know if I've got big enough chrome screws to cover that or not. But to screw that channel in,
This is where that aluminum
Yeah.
channel goes.
that's what holds the convertible top across the back.
Yeah, it holds the cable
Those
down.
aren't in there and they're in there secure. It's gonna fall loose.
A little late to weld those.
Well, you can't weld them. It's either move the screw holes and then you'll have extra screw holes in that channel, or if I can find my larger
Here's something we could do.
The problem with putting the larger screws
Here's something we could do.
is when you run the screw in there,
No, I have
there's the risk of bulging or
no,
cracking
I have
the
this channel with no holes in it whatsoever.
Oh, you do?
I have a new one. Yes, new ones with no holes. Why don't we move the holes over a
Oh, I
quarter?
can do
You'll
that.
never really see it.
I can do that, yeah.
Move the holes over. It will chamfer or countersink the holes in the aluminum because these are way too large.
They are, yeah.
And
I might be
they're
able
so
to-
close to this. You're right. If you put a bigger screw in there,
Well,
it might
this-
bulge that up.
His channel, I think they chromed it.
I did see his channel somewhere. You think they plated it?
No, maybe not. Maybe they just stuck it in the bag.
Is it grabbing and catching on everything known to mankind under there?
Well,
Is this all chrome in this box? Because I did not look through this box.
Yeah, see they chrome plated it.
This is, we did go through this? Or you did?
Yeah, I went through that. All the new parts.
Okay, so we're still missing the latches
Yeah.
to mount the door handle and stuff too.
That looks like they chrome plated it.
Well,
I don't know how they can.
I may have to trade him. You're gonna have to cut the end of the bag off. I may have to trade him a new one where we can move the holes over for what he's got here because we can't. I don't think you're gonna be able to use this. Yeah, it's been plated,
It's been plated poorly, but it's been plated.
and it's not that. Yeah, even the holes in this are way big. See them?
Yeah, they are. But I might have larger chrome screws that
Why
we
don't
can
you-
actually
why don't
use
you take a
this.
look?
I'll look and see what I
Let's
got.
leave it right in the bag. Let's leave it right in the
I
bag.
don't have a whole lot of that stuff.
These are also drilled out way big. Even this one is bigger than the rest.
Yeah.
As long as the head doesn't pull through, man, you got to be so careful. There's almost no space between that hole and the deck. If it gets too large, you'll actually pucker the paint here.
Yeah, if it's too large or too long.
Yeah, you're gonna have to really be careful with that.
Gotta be short screws.
We'll play it by ear. If we can't do that, then I'll get a new one and we'll drill the holes over just a hair because those are already way too large.
I'll have to look, 'cause I don't know where all that stuff is.
So, like I said, it doesn't. I know we aren't showing massive progress, but all kinds of little stuff's been done, including
All
the
the prepping to get
front suspension, all the prepping to get everything, all the searching through, finding all the parts and pieces and sandblasting them and getting them primed and painted. That's all being accomplished. So, this is his rear axle ready to go back together. This is where I had to braze up this entire big chunk broken away from the the casting here was snapped when the axle came up, and it was all full of grease. So what was really holding that together was the clamp going over the boot. You can see this car had sat outside quite a long time because there's an awful lot of deep pitting and corrosion, and we're finding it out on a lot of stuff. This casting is, just being corroded away. But it's intact enough to use, and it's going to work fine. It just has a fair amount of corrosion. Things like this, we're going to change. Rob, did I give you new ones of these already?
Yes, I have it.
Because that thing is toast.
I have a new one.
You need to let me know. This thing is so shot. There's no way I'm putting this back in. Huh?
All the rear end stuff.
All right. Well, we'll just make sure because this thing's more than gone. All right. That's the main.
Oh, yeah, I do. Here it is.
I thought I got you one of those. And some bushings. The bronze,
It had fallen off the edge of the table.
the bronze and the steel bushings.
It's a great thing.
Now, why is that one over there in two pieces?
I don't know. I've never seen one like that.
There's supposed to be one piece like this. That one's in two chunks.
I don't know. I've never seen one like that.
Oh,
Here's all the bearings to see.
So we have
what's
new
going on.
things. So we're ready to put his,
Bushings.
other than a little bit of paint work, or is he done with the paint work now too?
I don't remember. I think there's one or two pieces, but
We now have the paint to go. We're going to open these up, tape off the outsides. We now have the paint.
that's what we don't have. Paint, tape.
We don't have the. We now have the paint to paint the insides of these the correct color, and it also preserves the plating because a lot of debris can kind of catch in there and tarnish your plating and mess it up. So we're going to paint the insides of these so that they're painted the way the factory did it. And what he's missing is what these attach to. They mount to the door, and then this actuates that door latch. He has the handles, and they've even been chromed, and they're very nice. But what we don't have is the mechanism
Or
that
the rods.
mounts to that, or the rods. We have used ones that we can sandblast up and clean up that are not pristine, but we can make them work. But we're hoping that the customer has them. So I've gotten an email off to him already. Well, we're going to spend another couple of days, and when we get a little more progress, some of this stuff cut out, maybe some of the stuff glued up on the dash, or he's got this convertible top well cover, big pieces here. He's got to cover that, and they do have that in the other building stripped down and cleaned up already. So your scissors are pretty darn sharp, dude.
They're made to do this.
Are they?
Not
So-
like spending $70 on a pair of scissors.
Don't cut yourself short. If anything, make it big. So, like I said, we'll be trimming this stuff out. The other Rob is working on Michael's car. As soon as the doggone weather breaks here for us, that other vehicle will be out and finish sandblasting.
You should do that tomorrow. Tomorrow's supposed to be fixed.
Be back in a bit. We found Bill's door that he decided not to use. It's dented seriously on the outside. We might be able to use his latch, the correct latch.
He has a cracked one in there.
Does he? Because the latches don't match that are on his car.
I don't know why. They usually don't match.
And we're missing, for the door that he has, we're missing these. So we have a set of these now. The channels. And we need this. You're gonna have to decide whether whether the threads are good enough. I think they might be able to be wire brushed and cleaned up.
Yeah, you gotta be careful of that.
Zinc die cast. Yeah, but they look intact. I think if you lube it up and wire brush it, I think you're gonna be able to do it. So we only need one of these then. They're missing one for the side that they replaced all the goodies in,
Yes.
for the passenger side. Okay, well good. So you have your channels. You have the little stop. You got your rod. You have a latch, but he used the latch out of a later car, but it's the same for about 1958 or 59.
Same latch. Because the one on the driver's side does not have the thing for the lock either. I don't know where he got it from.
Well, we can swap them if we have to. All right. Well, then we've got what we need here for one side. We just need the goodies for the... well, you've got these for the other side, as far as you know.
Yes, for one side of the car, I have those.
Are there rights and lefts of these?
Yeah.
Then you're going to have to find out if that's the same as this one or the opposite. But we do know we have one of these. Okay. We'll get back in a while. We're on Bill's car. We found these in a plastic bag. Very corroded. You can see they look much nicer. They're all bead blasted. They're intact. Even these look as these aren't broke off.
On that one. This one's got one of them busted on.
One broke off. I can pop rivet another one on there, but
Don't need them.
they're screwed in anyway, right?
And
So
even
what-
seals for them, though. The seals were shot.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I have those. You said the wiring was
I
bad?
need new bulbs for them. This wiring, somebody changed it, and it's
Oh, it's
not
too
even-
short.
Not even the right length. Not even close.
Yeah, it's going to be too short, so we'll have to add to it and shrink wrap it into there?
Add to
or do you
it,
want to come
or
right in here?
I'd like to come right into here, but I don't know.
I think we're gonna.
If I can get that apart.
That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough. I can.
To add to this is not a big deal. It's in the trunk.
I can splice. I can cut back here, splice it, and put new shrink wrap over it, and you won't even see it. Colin's got those nice brass barrels, and you stagger them 3 inches so they can't rub on each other, and you'll never see it. So it'll look original actually. It'll look real nice. This one looks to be long enough to get into the trunk, although the end is gone.
That's original.
Yeah. Now, did you find the wiring block that mounts in the trunk on that reinforcement where all of these go to?
No, I don't know.
Because you're going to need that too.
Well, yeah.
All right, I'm going to go out and view.
Need the wiring harness for that car. What it needs.
Yeah, I've got a wiring harness. The rear I have, if you want to put that in.
The other one's coming.
The other one's coming. We called them today.
Put the rear in.
Yeah, put the rear in.
I want to put the carpet in.
Put the rear in. You have the carpet. Now, I haven't talked to the customer, but I bought an extra.
Tape in there.
Okay. I bought an extra set of trunk carpet
Yeah, I see it.
for one of these. So either Tim Clark
Oh, I stuck it out.
or Bill will take it, I'm sure. So I'm going to walk out in the other building and get a shot of where you are with leather pieces and so on. Is there something else I need to show out there? You painted the bumpers. I didn't have that before, so I'll do that. Because those are all painted inside.
I was just going over.
All right, I'll go out there with you.
Say, clipboard.
All right, we're back in the other building here where Bill's car is. As you can see, he's been working on it. He's getting a lot of things prepped. This is a fire retardant material. It's expensive, but it is well worth. It has a sticky back on it, and sparks won't burn through it if you're grinding nearby. Or there are things in here that they did and left gobs of metal and that kind of thing. Inside of there, they got a lot of grinding to do down inside. There's actually, I think I showed it, wire sticking through and so on. So he's ground that, but he had to protect the car in that process.
Ground it, sealed it.
So he's primed and painted the insides of the bumpers. Did the rear bumpers go together better than
Oh, I played hell getting these on.
than the fronts? We have
But
issue with the front bumper, which I put up over here. We'll bring that over here in a minute. That's all painted inside the proper color. These bumpers were getting all rusty, really bad inside, because when they plate the outside and they run these through a chemical bath, they leave the inside with no plating on it at all, just bare metal, and they rust like mad. So he does not have rear bumper guards, or he does? We haven't tried them on here yet, or just getting ready? Okay, I'm going to shut this down for a moment, help you get them, but we have some things to show for the front bumper, how the guards are fitting. We're going to check the rear bumper right now because it's already here on the table. So I'll put this on standby for a minute and we'll get this going. All right, back on Bill's car. These seals here, these bumper brackets fit considerably nicer than the front ones. Now, we just temporarily stuck this rubber on here, so it kind of pulled in on us a little bit on this corner, but that just gives us an idea here. You can see these gaps. You're not going to be able to do anything about that. It has to do with the shape of the rear bumper not being 100% matching to the guard. But there's not much we can do about that because these have all been plated. These, when you're plating these, it's important that these be fit to here before the plating is finished. If they have to do any straightening or whatever. So you can see that side fits.
they buff these.
That
see
side
nickel
fits better, yep.
around there. This side's really bad. It goes way down in here. down in there.
Yeah, the cover will almost cover that.
No,
Almost.
had it set up there. It won't cover it.
Yeah, there's not much you can do about that.
Send
They
it back.
buffed a little too far out.
They buffed it too thin. is
They
what
buffed
did.
it too thin, yeah.
Then it also has these holes here. I don't know what he wants to do with those.
I'm gonna guess they had a license plate mounted there, but I don't know. There's no reason to have those holes in the bumper.
You're right.
All right, let's set this. Can you guys set this back and we'll pull the, just leave it together for now. You want to pop them off or what? Set it back a little ways and let's bring that front one that's over there over here so we can.
I'll push it slightly.
Yeah, it's got a slight twist in it. This corner is elevated higher than the other corner by a little. All right. This, the guards are on. Well, actually, I took the other one off, didn't I?
Yeah.
Over there.
But
They fit exactly the same. So let's tip this up. We have the bolt in. We have the rubber seals on. Okay. When they straightened and worked on this bumper, it is squeezed together too far. Needs to be opened up, and I'll show you how much. Can you tip this up a little bit? We have a gap. You got it?
Yeah.
We have a gap that I can't do anything about between here and there, and we've even got one on the bottom. Now this is normal to have a little bit down here, but I don't know if you can tell, this dips down, and it should be this wide all the way across, which would close up a good bit of that gap. And this is sprung closed, should be opened wider. Now, we can do that, but it will most likely crack or split the chrome plating, and so we don't dare do that.
Well, it'll definitely do it here. This
This is this is buffed.
so thin. That
This is buffed very, very. Let me see if I can get my finger down there. This has been buffed or ground very thin. There's almost no material here any longer. So if we put something in here
like a crack.
and try to push this open, pretty sure we're going to split that.
It's almost like a crack. You get your finger right into it.
Yeah, they buffed it pretty thin, even here, but not as bad. That's just an imperfection in the finish work. But the same thing here. This is pushed this way, and this is pushed this way, leaving the type of gap that you see in here. From the front, you won't really notice it, but we're limited as to what we can do because these have already been chromed. Now,
Bumperettes.
he didn't have bumperettes that we can find anywhere. And here's another thing: when you're plating these, which reminds me, I have some out being plated. I got to call them.
You see that gap?
This bumperette, if I try to crush it against there, I may break it, and they're $100 a piece. So I got to be really careful. This bumper is squeezed together here, opened a little farther here. As you can see, it fits a little bit better, quite a bit better. So the shape of this bumper needed to be modified so that these dropped right on and laid right across here properly. This has nearly 1/4 of an inch of gap, which tells me this bumper needed to be squeezed open, and this has bowed in. I can see where they've straightened it and welded it, actually cut it apart, welded it back together. Yeah, but the dimensions aren't accurate. As a matter of fact, it's even squeezed more here together than it is out here. So this kind of dish pans in. You won't see it on the car, but you'll see it by these. And these holes in the bumper are for these bumperettes. We're just not sure. I'm pushing really hard here to close it. I'm afraid I'm just going to snap it.
Stop.
So I'm putting fingerprints in the paint that's drying. So that's where we are. We're gonna do the best we can with what we've got. Unless you look really careful at it from the front here, you won't notice it.
Whole bumper's ripped out.
But we can't do anything about it at this point because it's all plated and finished, and we'll talk to the customer about it. But the only alternative is to
Replace it.
do a complete another set of bumpers, properly fit everything, and then have them chromed. Could probably use the guards over, but they're not as smooth. You can see the reflection here. They really didn't finish those very accurately before they plated them. I know I'm getting nitpicky, but he's getting so much time and money into the car. These are things that really show off the car, and they got to be really, really nice. You can feel ripples across the face of this as well. So this one goes over here, but it doesn't fit any better. So there's where we are. Leather's all cut up into the pieces that are needed. He's starting to work on it already. He's got the rear surround fitted in, which we don't know what the heck kind of glue was on that baby, but took forever to get that thing cleaned up. So the aluminum on that surround is all bare now, and we got new contact cement. So we'll be doing that actually tomorrow. Probably working on some of this tomorrow. Be a couple days before I get back to this, but then I'll get some more video then. We got a hold of the customer. We contacted the chrome plater. They are looking up to determine whether they did any straightening of these whatsoever. If they didn't do any straightening and all they did was take what he had and plated it, and they weren't told that they didn't fit, then it's probably not their responsibility. But I've talked with them. They're going to check photographs and so on. So a few other... Well, the camera quit on me. But anyway, we're going to send one of these out back to them for plating. We'll clean it up, but it appears like it never got plated. We got another issue here with the glove box door. It's all painted, looks nice, fits the car. I got another issue happening here. It looks like it's going to give me trouble. This rod is gone, and it gets welded to a metal plate that gets riveted to the aluminum. This rod has a spring on it, holds the door open, otherwise the door is just going to flop completely open. We literally got to grind this metal away, pack rags with water around here, and make a rod and weld a rod back onto here, or he has to have a completely different license plate or glove box door. Rob is counterboring this channel. We mentioned before, try this again. These are too large, so he has to move the hole over from where it is to a new hole. These are already way too big, and they're so close to here, if you go to oversized screws, they'll literally pucker and hit the body. So we have to put a new molding on, even though he plated that one. Move the holes, re-drill them. He's countersinking them right now. The biggest problem we have at the moment, he doesn't have these. I'll talk to him about that. But these are tensioners that get bolted here that you must have if you're going to have a convertible top. And the screws are broken off. Stripped the screws, they snapped it completely off. Never fixed it, did all the body work. If you drill this without a way of stopping your drill bit and it drops through, it will put a dent or puncture the body out here. Both of those in the same position are snapped right off. We started trying to drill that one out, and we're going to slip a rubber hose over the drill bit to help prevent the possibility of it dropping through and shooting out and hitting the body. We're going to have to be really, really careful. So they kind of gave that job to me. Fun, fun, fun.
The other thing,
So,
you see where that pencil line is?
yeah.
That has to be
the car body is filled too far here. We have to cut this away.
Steel welded in there.
So when they welded this on, they didn't trim that back to accommodate for the end rail cap.
Right.
Well, both sides. That side's even farther.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to use a saw or something, or it will burn the paint job. Okay.
Or a file,
Or a file.
which will take forever.
Okay. And because there was so much body filler here, you blended that away, or what?
No, there was no body filler on there. This has got so much filler on it.
So there's a huge ledge.
It's a quarter of an inch taller than the dash.
Can we
So
blend this
I'm
down, or are you going
blend
to fill
this-
it?
I'm going to fill that with.
Oh, so you
fill it.
cleaned it so you could put some filler.
Yeah.
So you're going to blend from this surface down
Yeah.
and come around here so that the windshield still sits okay.
Right.
Because the windshield sits on this ledge,
Right.
and that ledge is 1/8 of an inch too high,
Oh, at least.
or 1/4 of an inch too high. But then if we do anything, we got to alter all of this. So
yeah.
it's possible that the
So I
windshield
just
frame
figured
will
I'd
sit a little higher on one side than the other, but we can adjust that out with the convertible top frame.
It doesn't.
'Cause that pin-
It doesn't matter. This is, as long as that seal is going to sit right.
Yep. But
or
this could actually
seal.
be just a slight bit higher. We
It
can
is
adjust
higher.
that in the convertible top frame. That little pin that sticks out, the hook pin,
Yeah.
we can adjust that and change it. All right, now you had to also make these holes bigger.
Yeah, they had filler in there, and then it was also on the brace inside here.
So you had to carve it so
So I
that
had
things
to-
will go on.
Right.
But that's done now?
Yeah, that's done.
Okay.
And
Okay.
sat there carving and filing and
All right.
trimming and trying not to.
I will
wreck
get
things.
busy trying to drill these things out, and we'll see if we can do it without punching holes in the car body.
I only broke one.
This is the glove compartment inside tray. These are for the bottom of the dash. He's also got a little piece cut for the bottom of the glove box door. Doesn't that get it too, Rob? Bottom of the glove box door gets leathered too, right?
Yeah.
We're not going to do that until we make 100% sure we can use it. This,
We ain't gonna be
put a hose over the drill bit. You can see the drill bit just sticking out. That'll compress when I push it against the metal, and it will prevent me from, if I go through anything, it'll prevent me from bopping through and destroying the beautiful paint job on the car. So we'll get shots as we get these drilled out. Okay, a while later, we were able to drill that out, tap it, and that side's okay. We're gonna be able to live with it. I had to cut down the car body right here. Where's my doggone? Oh, okay, here we are. I had to cut the car body down. We'll do something because it's been painted right there. This wouldn't fit otherwise. That was sitting up too high. None of these holes would fit. So these end rail caps were not fit to the car before the bodywork was finished, and that should have been done. The panel here, see that gap right in there? This panel should have curled a little farther and then been pulled down farther. So when this end rail cap sits on the body like it's supposed to, see how high the end of the cap is over top of the channel? It should be down in there like that, where I had to notch it, because it has to fit down in here like that. It's supposed to be notched. So it sits so high, the aluminum surround that lays up here, sat up too high because this was up too high. So now this will come down, but what I'm saying is it fits the top screw if I angle it, but it's supposed to sit like this, like that right there. And you can see that it's half the hole off, distance off. So the only way to make that fit is to tilt it down here, drill a second hole back there and put it in, and then the end rail cap is sitting at a slight angle with a small gap under here, but that's all we can do. The body's all painted and done. So
I'll caulk that under there.
yeah, it will look okay. It's just going to be, it should stand upright like this. Because the panel's too high, we have to tip it down a little bit like that. No, I'm exaggerating.
Slightly.
About like that. So it's supposed to be like this. We're gonna have to put it on like that. It means drilling another hole and kind of fitting this. So, but he's got this panel. He's gonna leather the back of this now.
This piece is fit in here. We had to cut this much off the ends of that new part.
Yeah, the new part is it comes in
Longer than you need.
about 3 or 4 inches too long. So he's
yeah.
trimmed it off and fit it to the end rail caps.
Trim it,
So
yeah, you have to trim it.
so we're good there. All looks pretty good. He's going to be able to. Now this side, the holes are all stripped, and they put a rivet in there. I drilled the rivet out, and we're going to helicoil that and put new threads back in. So
Should be good to go.
it'll be good to go. Everything we try to.
Oh, I want to tap the run tap through those holes.
Oh yeah, grab that. Let me do that real quick. We're going to tap these holes up here where the mirror went, just to make sure before we start assembling things and he leathers this that there's no future work. You're through. So far look okay? Did it feel like you had a little bit of resistance when it went down?
Through, yeah.
Good.
They'll be good, yeah.
They'll be all right. Okay. All right. So he's gonna be leathering the dash.
I want to have leather on here and then have to try to fix
He's gonna be filling this and beveling it in, because otherwise we have to carve all of this down, and it's painted. This is actually a little bit too high here. You can see the. I don't know if you can tell from over there or not.
This one's actually up a little bit too, slightly.
Yeah, but maybe a 16th or
nothing
so.
like that.
You can
This
see
will
that
be
that's
okay.
built. You see
won't-
that ledge right there? You can see in the picture. I probably showed this before, but
When I put the chrome on there, the chrome goes through this hole right here.
yep.
So it'll hide this.
Yeah, and also
You
the
won't-
windshield
you
frame
won't
laid on that pretty
see it.
decent.
And then the windshield frame goes right. The seal is right where this
Yeah.
line.
So that's a little bit too high there. Again, not the end of the world. It's too late because it's all painted up. And this is quite a bit higher here. You can see there's a big ledge between there and there. We'd have to cut back into here and blend that, or we're going to fill this, and this windshield post will sit a little higher than the other one. So the windshield frame will have to be, or the convertible top frame will have to be adjusted a little bit, because it's going to have to sit cleanly all the way across the frame. We can do that. So he's gonna fill this with a polyester resin here, blend it into the dash, because right now when the windshield post comes down, it only hits a small spot right here, and that's where a seal goes. It's not the end of the world, but then you see a gap under here. So he'll fill that, blend that, then he's going to leather this and leather that back wall, and we'll get shots of that as he gets going with it. Okay, back on Bill's car again. This is the surround. Uses one big honking piece of leather to put on here, one piece. He's got it primarily on. These get rolled and snaps get put in, and then the back piece covers the back part of the snaps.
Don't touch it.
It took forever to clean off. Whatever glue they used before was horrible.
It was like concrete.
It was like cement. He said it was just terrible to get off. It took him twice as long to clean this as it should have.
But it wasn't hold the material. The material peeled right off.
The material peeled off, but it was like cement underneath of
Glue
it.
underneath it.
Whatever they
It's
used
all
was
rough
terrible.
and lumpy and
So these little pieces here actually cover those. So he's pre-cut them to the shape, and I think he's even got glue on here. So he'll be doing that. Getting grommets in place here. I got to put a grommet in the back. Running wiring down through. I got to slide a grommet down. Tuck it around that. It's a real beast to get that one in there. This is a replacement surround. I showed you before that we had to trim this down so that the end rail cap will go in. We have to modify this because the way this was designed, the way this was put on, the end rail cap doesn't fit quite right. When we get done, it should look okay. The leather's been installed here. It's several pieces. You have a back wall, you have a bottom, and you have the two sides. Those have all been pre-fit. Carpet's been fit in, and that'll be stuck in here, but I got to get some things for him done. The grommet here will slide down that wiring assembly back in, and then we got to pucker it in there and tuck it into that hole so it bites really nice. Keeps the wiring from chafing on the hole. So we'll get that done. He's filled this and brought the levels up the same. So when the post goes in, we got to carve this out just a little bit. But when the post goes back in here, it will lay, instead of just laying on this outer edge, it'll lay on here and the rubber will seal. And then the leather won't have a big jump in it either. The leather comes on up into here. And we tapped these holes. We pulled the screws out of here that were improper. We're going to be putting T-bolts in. This is where the molding attaches. We got T-bolts that'll go in there. That's wind lacing that's going to go around the edges of the door. Goes right down in here. Trims off the door edge. So this is the trim that will go down in here, and that will kind of crimp against the carpet when the carpet's trimmed off there. So we'll get some shots. I got to get this video compiled that I was going to send off to the customer, and get that done so he can see where we are at this point. And then obviously we'll be continuing on. Okay, we've got this covered now. He's just doing the finishing touches. These are all covered. This will be coming up and wrapping around.
Tucking.
He'll come up and tuck in here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trim this out first.
And we got the grommet in back here.
Wiring's all ran in the back.
Wiring's in the trunk done.
It's all routed in the trunk. It's not up to the tail edge yet.
Let me lift this a little. I don't want to send the stuff on the trunk flying, but is this cut where I can lift it? Okay. Wiring's routed back into here. We don't have a whole lot of light, but you can see it sitting there.
It's all.
And it's all the way in the back here.
Trunk light wiring, and these go to the these are the lights.
Colin rewired those for you?
Yeah.
So you got new wiring looms in them?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
the wiring's all ran.
they never gave us these gizmos here,
Tabs.
the tabs for holding it down. Whoever did this, obviously, they didn't understand. There's a tab here and a tab here, and I believe one here, that hold this wire in place. So I probably can get you tabs with a small hole in it, and we can screw it in.
Pop rivet it on.
Pop rivet it on or screw it down. I guess we'll have to do that. But that wiring comes in here and goes to the gas tank.
Yeah, there also is no junction on here. No, there's no plate for the junction block to fit on.
So do we have to
So we have to
drill
make
something and
we have
just
to
make a bracket?
Make a bracket.
That's where the junction box goes for all the wires to
for
connect
all
to.
the wires.
Okay, so we'll just make something
The
in
other
there.
thing is there's no holes in here for the wiring to run through.
Oh, there's no holes to go out to the bumper.
Right. There is in the body though. They're in the body.
There is in the body. Maybe we'll use the ones on the body. Oh, you got to use it.
go-
You got to have both. It's
Yeah.
got to go through here
Right.
and then out through
I'll
there.
have to run it up in the air and then drill a hole through the
Okay.
body.
Do you need? You want these same grommets?
I don't know if those will fit in those or not.
Depends on the hole. If you give me the hole that's in our taillight bucket.
That hole's kind of. This one actually seems kind of fairly big. Huh?
Yeah, if you give me the hole that's in our taillight bucket inside,
Yeah.
I can get you grommets to
Alright.
fit that. We can put a little sealant around it so we don't get any rust there, because you're going to be drilling through. You're going to be drilling through that nice paint.
Well, I'll paint the edge of it.
Yeah, and then I'll give you grommets to fill that
Paint the
with.
edge of it, and then I'll let that dry and then I'll put that bar cement on there. And stick
So,
some grommets.
making decent progress here on the leather and all.
Got these channels in here for the carpet, hold the carpet in.
Yep. Okay.
Got those in the back. And this is
The channels and the.
This is done. Other than I don't have.
We got to trim that
I
when we
gotta
do
look
the.
up front to see if we have the screws that hold this onto the post.
Okay.
I don't know if you got them or not. If you don't, I got them somewhere.
I got
Thought
some.
they were in
I got some stainless ones, I think.
Thought I had them in the
I got some stainless trim screws. So, like I said, a little bit slower than we had anticipated, but we're running into one obstacle after another that we have to overcome, and it takes a little extra time. But we're making progress. This is looking very nice.
Oh, you want the dash?
Did you do some of the dash already? We got some breeze coming up. Other than I figured on that glove box. Okay, so you got the dash covered and the moldings on,
Inside the glove box.
and the inside of the glove box is all done.
The ashtray is done for the top of the dash.
Oh yeah, that hunk of wood had to be covered.
This is the.
That looks really nice.
This goes around the gauges, so you
Oh, yeah.
have this rough edge.
Yeah,
around
you
the
gotta.
gauges.
It's a bead that
It
goes
gets glued in, but I glue it in just as I'm putting it in.
it goes around the gauges, and that'll look really nice. Okay. Well, I've videoed what we're proposing to do. What I think I'm going to do is make you a rod. I'm going to surround that.
Just call the guy and see what color that is.
Surround that glove box in.
He goes, that guy's got paint coat.
He probably has paint left over.
It doesn't matter. Rob said if he's got the paint coat, he can just mix up just enough to do that.
So you're thinking I'm going to attempt to fix what he has. If I destroy
Big of a deal, though.
if I destroy it,
That's true.
then we'll have to go that route. But I think I'll try it first.
We gotta close this door, otherwise it'll.
So, anyway, we showed earlier the glove box doesn't have the rod. It's very important. It'll flop open and rattle, and so we're going to try and fix that. If I'm not successful, then we will have to use another glove box door, and we'll have to paint it that color. So, we'll get back after we get some more hours into it.